One of my concerns is that we often focus on humanitarian assistance to the detriment of protection because we fail to consider the protection issues and needs while we're planning our assistance programs. And one of the concerns is that there's often a lot of discussion about protection, but then we have difficulty actually carrying out protection activities. And in some of the protection working groups or clusters, this is a problem where there's a confusion uh, amongst humanitarian actors about the difference between protection and assistance. And there's also been, in many situations, a lack of adequate protection monitoring and reporting. Now, not all humanitarian organizations can do reporting on protection openly, but there are others who can. And it's important to remember the concept of complementarity, where one organization can perhaps share information with another that is more able to speak out. But it's very important to keep the context clear that the crisis in Syria, in Gaza, and in other situations around the world, with Boko Haram, for example, they're primarily protection crises, and yet we tend to focus on them through a strictly humanitarian lens. There's a need for understanding the perpetrators in conflicts, the perpetrators of human rights violations and violations of international humanitarian law, that we often fail to understand what their motivations are, we fail to engage with them adequately, and much of our engagement is focused on access and delivery of humanitarian aid. And again, assistance does not equal protection, but assistance done strategically and with a view toward protection can make a huge difference. But it requires analysis and it requires knowledge of the field, and that is sometimes lacking. Well, to begin with, I think we each have to own our part of the protection responsibility so that when we know of protection violations or we're aware of a situation, we need to bring that to the attention of someone, even if we're working in WASH or the food sector or nutrition or shelter. There are many protection issues that are raised. And it's very important to bring those matters to the attention of the entire community so that we're not all working in a siloed fashion, but that we get a good picture of what's going on. Also, a very important point is to spend time with the affected population, to actually sit down with people. It's difficult in a remote control situation such as Somalia or in Syria, for example, where a lot of the cross-border operations are run by remote control programming, although there are many young Syrians or young nationals in these kinds of programs that are actually going in and risking their lives every day. But if you don't take the time to at least meet with people that you can reach and sit down with them and understand their perspective, what are the protection problems that concern them the most? What are the kinds of things that they think of? What are their ideas about what we can do to approach the protection situation? I'm seeing a trend now toward more professionalization, I guess, of the career. And on the one hand, that's a very positive development because it means that hopefully we're getting better at what we're doing. But on the other hand, what that often means too is that we're forgetting the very basic human need for communication and for understanding. And that can only be gained by spending time with the affected population. And to sit down in a village or to sit down in an IDP or a refugee camp and really try to get to know the people and understand and to get a wide variety of views as well, not just from the people running the camps who are often men, but from older women, from young women, from children, their perceptions of what their concerns are, what their fears are, what their daily life is like, is absolutely critical to understand. And I see with an increasing professionalization, our approaches sometimes become a little bit too technical or too clinical, and the human dimension seems to be forgotten. I think this has an effect on the degree of empathy that we feel for the people, because that human contact is what creates empathy. That human contact is what creates the motivation as well for you to do something, to carry out your obligations to the furthest extent possible.